Hey guys, welcome back to the Year 13 Expo. Some goals are BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals. While they can be daunting at first, they can be broken down. You just have to empower yourself to do so. To share their journey and what it takes to dream big and how you can go about achieving those dreams, I'm joined virtually by breakout stars of the amazing race, the deadly duo, Dwes and Katherine. Thank you so much for joining us, you two.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Hi.
I'm just going to jump straight into it, and I love to just pick your brain apart about so many different things, especially to do with the amazing race, but also about your journey. But I'd love to just ask you, who are your mob and where are you two from?
So I'm Badi, Jawi, and Nyunyul from my family, and I'm from the Dampier Peninsula, One Arm Point community.
I'm a Nyonyol woman, from the Dampier Peninsula as well. Also got ties to Yaru here in Broome.
Lovely, lovely. And, did you grow up with your language and culture as well?
For me, I was very much brought up in my culture and language, and I was able to be immersed in that as a young child, which really helped me sort of center myself as a young Indigenous man now, especially around my identity. I was very much, I still speak my language quite fluently with my grandparents and family members. So, yeah, I was pretty much brought up in a very cultural background.
Growing up in Broome, I wasn't so lucky. I've got a white father, so we were sort of brought up just being able to be immersed in that culture by hunting and fishing and all of that. But with our language, I didn't really learn much, just bits here and there, but pretty keen to learn now in my older age.
Awesome, awesome. And now, on the topic of growing up and things like that, what was sort of the transition for the both of you, out of high school and where you are now?
I think for me, I found transitioning to mainstream school and all of that's quite easy because I did have a really quite a grounded sense of my own individuality and my identity. So I came into an environment where, kids would say stuff and I knew exactly who I was. So that really helped me. And with good foundations, I was able to really sort of work into the school environment quite well around making friends and sharing my culture was quite something unique as well. Going down to Perth for schooling really helped too as well because I was able to share who I was as an individual because, going to almost, the school where there was majority of the people were white, I was kind of really dark. So, it was just easy, I felt. I didn't really get much pushback or racism or anything like that. I was quite, I was quite lucky, I guess, with that transition.
I graduated high school and obviously had hopes to go to university and that, but just got straight into the workforce and just found myself being given the opportunity to have several different jobs and just gain that experience, which led me to where I am now, which is my dream job. So pretty happy with that.
Lovely. And what were some of those jobs, Katherine? I'm very curious.
Bit all over the place. I started working in admin, obviously, where everybody starts. Bit of finance work, then pushed into sort of some legal work, and which then got me to where I am now, which is so I work in community sport and rec, which is my dream job.
Amazing. Yeah, I find it so interesting, people that do different jobs and things like that, you learn so much from all those odd jobs and it sort of accumulates into your dream job in a way. It's so bizarre how life works like that, but yeah, that's crazy. Awesome. So how and when did you guys, discover your certain passion and purpose for certain works that you do? Dwes, would you like to go first with this one?
Yeah, I think for me, as a child, I think growing up, I always wanted to help people. I always saw my work career would take me into social justice, and which it has. I just like to see, helping people to try in their most vulnerable times to try and get the right supports to really build their self-esteem up. To really help them to navigate quite a complex system of services, can be quite overwhelming. So if I can help them in that path in life, I feel like I've done my job. I've literally done a number of things in social justice, and I still advocate quite strongly for Indigenous rights, equality, but also LGBTIQ plus advocacy as well, especially in the Kimberley where we come from. It's quite a new concept. However, it's something that we've been able to break that stigma, all of that stuff quite easily because of diversity. It's not something that is not new in the Kimberley. We've always been so used to being inclusive and especially along with our heritage as well. So yeah, I think for me, helping where I can has brought me to my career path now, working in child protection.
I've always been heavily involved in sport and rec. Growing up in high school, I played most sports and I did a bit of state basketball and that, and then in my later years been into women's footy. But throughout my working years, I've always worked for community controlled organisations because I just love working with our people. And just moving back to Broome, I've just loved working with young kids out in remote communities, and so just to be able to mix the two together has just been a dream.
No, that's wicked. Now it's on that topic of like the passion and purpose thing. Like you kind of both identified like key factors and things. So what was then like the reason why you like applied for the Amazing Race?
I think I actually sent the application in for Katherine and Katherine didn't know anything about the Amazing Race application until we actually got to the first round of interviews. So laying in bed, I was just like, oh my God, I need an adventure for 2020. What can I do? And for some reason, it just popped up on my Facebook feed. And I was like, oh, I'm going to just do this. And who would I share this experience with? And I couldn't think of anyone more perfect than my cousin, Katherine. So I ended up filling in the application. And for me, after really thinking about it, the purpose as to why I felt we needed to do that as well is really to shed a light on the issues that face young Indigenous people within the Kimberley, especially with the high rates of suicide, all of that issues that we deal with on a daily basis, domestic violence. So I really wanted to show that young kids from the Kimberley, we can do something amazing, and if Katherine and I could use this as a platform to sort of carry our message of anything is possible, regardless of your background, where you come from, your remoteness, you can do anything as long as you put that energy into it. So that was for me one of the main driving force as to why we wanted to really do that outside of just being bored in 2020 COVID. So yeah, I think that was my main reason. And yeah, I think it worked out well. We got through.
And Katherine?
Like Dwes said, I was a bit reluctant at first once he finally told me, and I finally gave in. But I just put it down to a part of my work every day is trying to, inspire other women and get them to do things out of their comfort zone. So what could be better than me actually demonstrating this and, going on national TV and just facing all of my fears and just putting myself out there.
Awesome. I love that you also brought up like facing your fears as well. So like during the race, what was probably like the hardest, or probably like the challenge that you were like most scared of? Like, yeah, I'm curious because like there was some pretty crazy stuff that you guys were doing. I was a bit like, this is a bit wild.
I'm like,
either or. Sorry, I should have specified, but either or.
Katherine.
Okay, I'll go. Well, everyone probably, saw it in action, but the helicopter challenge was pretty intense for me. I wasn't able to get through that. I just had a personal issue happen previously in the past, and it sort of just brought back all of those feelings, and I just wasn't able to get through it on the day. But that was probably the scariest. So a lot of the challenges were they were hard, but we were able to get through them. But that challenge was, still have a bit PTSD from it. But definitely be something that I'd hope to conquer in the years to come.
Lovely.
I think for me, my hardest, because I have a fear of heights. So I think abseiling down Castle Hill in Townsville was probably the most challenging thing for me. When they said, I think the clue said, who's ready for a face-off? I wasn't actually thinking that it would be abseil down a cliff face. It was like 200 meters, and I'd never done anything like that before. And I literally had 2 seconds to make my mind up whether we were going to do this or not. And I said, I can't let Katherine down. She would kill me if I went back to the back of the line. So I went down, and I think for me that was a moment that sort of really struck a chord with me to say, it's just my mind that's taking over everything. I can achieve anything in life. It's just I'm the only barrier to my own successes.
Amen. That's great advice and a great thing to point out as well. And on that topic, like obviously, there's all this like feelings and stuff that you guys have like strong values, but also like you're very strong-headed. So like, what are some like inspirations, or like who actually like inspires you and why?
I think for me, I have a number of people that inspired me along my journey in life, and I think I can't almost pick one person. But I think the common message that I've always had with all of those individuals was that, remain true to yourself, treat people respectfully. And I think, if I was to pick somebody, I think it would be my grandparents, because they've literally demonstrated to me what good positive role models are. They've always shared what they've had. And I think that's, to me, I like to share everything I have in my knowledge. I like to share my experience with people. I like to, provide opportunity for others as well. So I think those values that they've instilled in me would probably be the most important values. So I can't actually pick one individual, but I think everyone sort of contributed to that.
It's a bit of a cruel question, like trying to just be like, pick one, only one.
But I think one of the main leaders, I think in Australia, when I look at them, I think Auntie Jackie Huggins would be somebody that I admired so much. Just her continuous commitment to justice for Aboriginal people. She's someone who's, in the background, they're always advocating, and I just love what she does. And I think she's just somebody amazing.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much the same. I acknowledge the fact that we have a lot of great Aboriginal leaders and, public figures, sports stars and that, and they're all great, paving the way for our younger generations. But I just see myself surrounded by really strong, like Aboriginal people, and I can't help but be inspired by them. And, they give me the confidence to be able to do things every day and just to be the person that I am, which I'm really grateful for.
Lovely. And how have you balanced your cultural obligation and identity all the while, like, pursuing your passions in the world as well?
I think finding that balance, I think that suits you. I think each individual will navigate that differently. For me, it's always going back and grounding myself back on country with my family and people. So that always helps me a lot, because I think we can get quite consumed and distracted in regards to finding that balance. I think that, in the Western world, and also have our cultural world that we need to sort of, treat it respectfully. You know what I mean? So I think one of the things is grounding back on country, connecting with family, and just basically being true to who I am as my identity, as my person, and really be guided by my Leon throughout this whole process too.
Katherine?
Yeah, I think, in a lot of the stuff that I do, I always just think back to where I come from and just sort of my roots and my cultural connections and that. And I always just think, with everything that I do, whether or not I'd be, my ancestors, my people that I represent would be proud of me. So I always think back to that. And yeah, like Dwes said, just always being grounded and going back home and connecting with country and culture.
Nice. And what are some ways that like you keep yourself grounded? Do you have any like sort of methods or like any tips?
I think for me, just going and allowing myself to just put my feet in the water where I'm from, like up in the Damp Peninsula, just swimming would be something that I ground myself in, just being able to sort of sit in silence and listen to the waves crash on the water, listen to the birds, listen to the wind, feel the wind through your body, I think allowing your feet to really touch and be a part of the earth, I think that for me is really rejuvenating, and it really sort of allows my batteries to recharge again. For one, I think we take it for granted just how connected Indigenous people are to the land. And, even if you're from, say, the city, you're still connected to your country regardless. So always have that time to really ground yourself in Mother Earth and in all its experiences. Yeah.
And do you have any tips, Katherine?
Well, see, we're both saltwater people, so I was going to say exactly the same thing. Just being in the saltwater and going back to where I'm from, and just being on the being in the water, you know, part of the land, and also just being with family, I find you can just really just, you know, just be in your comfort zone.
Awesome. And what would you say has like helped you most succeed in like pursuing sort of your passion? Like Katherine, we'll go with you first, like pursuing, you know, that dream career and like finally landing that job.
I think just building my connections with community. So all the communities that I've worked with, just with past roles and that, I've had the opportunity to be able to work with these same communities. So I've, you know, built a relationship with them. And I think that's really helped me to be able to do my role properly, is just having those real strong relationships with Aboriginal people and, you know, the communities that we work in. I think trust is a big thing with Aboriginal people. So once you get that, you know, it's a good thing, and you sort of can just do your work without any issues, which has been good.
Lovely. And Dwes?
Oh, I think for me, the journey into my current role has, like how Katherine explained earlier on, it's been like I've gone through a number of positions within government. And I think, you know, I've always tried to find something that's meaningful, where I'm actually able to make meaningful change. And I felt that an area of child protection, you know, as Indigenous people, with the high rates of children that are in care of the CEOs across the nation, it's just appalling. And I think, you know, when you're looking at us as Indigenous people, we have to be a part of the system to break the wheel from within. And I felt that for me, coming into child protection was an opportunity for me to really inform a lot of child practicing workers, child protection workers, around the fact that, you know, we do have a culture that we need to identify that these children come from. How can we promote connection to country, people, family, law, and culture? And so I think from a point of me making meaningful change, I'm able to really direct a lot of professional thinking around how do we encourage families to be more a part of those decision making for children that are in care. Or if we're doing assessments on families, it's how do we look at it with a cultural lens. So I provide a lot of that cultural thinking and around what is this? Is it neglect? Is it not neglect? You know, there's things around. So I think me having that opportunity to really guide a lot of my colleagues in that cultural thinking and lens, I think it's something meaningful to me. And I think I'm able to make more valued change for future generations in that space.
No, I love that. So on the topic of, you know, your careers and things like that, what would you say are some of, you know, like your pits and peaks, or like?
As you know, child protection can be quite sensitive environment to navigate. But I think, you know, finding that balance in regards to ensuring that if a child was to be removed for any reason, that, you know, that is in itself, it's quite a traumatic experience, both for workers, families, and the child. So if I can, that to me was the lows, I think. But in the same time, I'm able to really guide and support this child to remain connected to family, country, and culture, and support workers to understand and value just how important those connections are around maintaining that, and really help them to build a plan that is more meaningful to the child's needs and the family's needs. And I think that's one of my sort of peaks, is that I'm able to really inform that from within the department.
Amazing. Katherine?
Yeah, sort of similar to what Dwes said. You know, I get to work with a lot of young people, and especially, you know, some quite young kids. And sometimes it's just really sad to see the home life they've come from. And, you know, out in small communities, there's not really much for them to do. So I guess that's really the only sort of pits I can think of. But just the highs of my job is just being able to go out there and give them something to do, you know, just give them a bit of something to look forward to, and just to give them a bit of fun, and just, you know, it helps with their mental health and all of that, social and emotional well-being. All of that just really, really makes me appreciate my job.
Amazing.
Josh,
Yeah.
Josh, what you'll find is Katherine almost undersells herself. She is an amazing woman, and I think, you know, she empowers so many young women within communities to really sort of, you know, find their own self, because I think a lot of them have experienced so much trauma in their life. And like Katherine's work, she uses football as a medium to really connect those individuals and empower them. So just listening to her, I'm like, Katherine, don't ever undersell yourself.
Some wholesome stuff.
He does this every time. He's been my PR.
I would love to then also just like to we're sort of heading towards the end of it, and I have two sort of just for fun questions. Well, sort of one's the just for fun, and one's sort of a bit more of like a bit more inspirational sort of thing. But what sort of advice would you give your 18-year-old self if we could throw it back to you being an 18-year-old, but where you are today?
I think for me, it's don't take yourself too seriously. Allow yourself to experience every opportunity that comes your way. And yeah, just don't think too much. I always overthink a lot.
I'd pretty much say exactly what Dwes said, but yeah, sort of don't don't confine yourself to certain lifestyles or groups of people that you hang out with. Sort of just my biggest thing is just about getting out of your comfort zone. And I think, back when I was 18, that's where I built my comfort zone. And if I could sort of just take on more and allow myself more flexibility and to just be more open to new things, and, you never know where it could get you. So that's the advice I'd give myself.
Amazing. Usually the last question is like a one that we normally ask everyone, and it's about what would you do if money wasn't an object? But you two were on The Amazing Race, so obviously there was a cash prize involved there. But if you guys had won The Amazing Race, what would you spent the 250K on?
Oh, so I always say I wanted to go on a Japanese ski holiday. So that would be first thing. But I think, when I look at social investment, I think I would put my money where my mouth was and probably look at how I can best support my community around, say, if it was a donation, like a small donation to an actual event or something, I would rather do that. Whether it's setting up a youth council and giving them some sort of investment money, that would probably be something I would want to do. Just because of the fact that we're so under financial, like there's so many opportunities. However, money is an object that we need to factor in. So if I could buy resources for them, like basketballs, all of that stuff, I would do that.
Absolutely. And Catherine, what about you?
Well, being a mum and a single mum, I obviously have somebody else I have to think about in their future. So I've always said that if I had won the money, then I would buy us a house, just to set us up and just be able to have something to give my daughter for when she's a bit older. And probably take her on a holiday, because I was away for about 8 weeks. So need to make up for that lost time.
I think that's a very wholesome note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us, you guys. I had a great time talking to you both. And I'm sure that there's plenty of people as well that are going to enjoy listening to this and also be feeling inspired. So thank you so much for joining us, Dwes and Katherine.
Thank you. See ya.
Thanks for having us.